Did you put the assless chaps on Prince?
Well, that's always a very good question. And my question to that is...
It ain't that I can't stop, it's that I won't stop. I made a few plays off a flip, now I'm on top. I'm Southside Chief, homie, yeah. What you know about it? Lake Street legend CEO, not the co-founder. What you wanna know about me? I'm so turfed up, I'm the last man standing, but I went first up. Most hated, they don't say it when I roll up. The things that people say about me, they don't say close up. Check it, I ain't been to the booth in a minute. Niggas hate the fact that I'm winning. Who makes him the chief of the South Side? Well, my nigga, I'm not a lieutenant. When I was in the gym, you wasn't in it. FaceTime, so my windows is tinted. If I said that shit, then I meant it. Niggas gave me the rules and I bent it.
Man,
Trying to get down.
you're kind of a daredevil, huh?
Well, yeah.
A little bit. I mean,
Well,
you,
you
got
kind
the,
of have to.
you had the motorcycle, so that already tells
I
me.
was already like,
Yeah.
But, I mean, I say more of a fashionable daredevil, which is probably
Clearly. You got to be our flyest guest.
Yeah.
You're definitely our flyest guest so far.
Uh-oh.
Definitely. We ain't nobody come dressed like this.
Well, hey, I should get some sort of Billboard award or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to come up with an award for
You
you.
gotta come up with an award.
We're
for
coming
it.
up with an award for you. Okay, you ready to go?
I'm
Let's
ready
get
to
into
go.
it. All right, another episode of Minnesota's #1 daily show live on Lake Street. I'm your host, Jake Faircloth, a.k.a. Podcast Poppy. Make sure you follow me everywhere at Jake Faircloth1. Follow us everywhere at Live on Lake Street. Special guest in the building, the flyest guest we've had to date. So y'all are on notice. Flyest guest. Now y'all got to start coming dressed a little flyer. We got Vaughn in the building. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate you joining me, man. I think you got a very, very cool, very interesting background, especially for, the people in Minneapolis that watch the show. Obviously the icon Prince. When people think music in Minneapolis, that's what they think is Prince.
They
and
do.
you had a very, very important role in his career. I would say. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, I would say that's very accurate.
Yeah.
Just fortuitous, being at the right place at the right time, connected with the right people at a stage when he needed a little more elevation.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, you were, what was the title? You were his fashion.
Well, the title simply, we were his fashion designer.
Yeah.
My partner and I, Lewis and Wells, we were fashion designers for entertainers. That could also be referred to as costume designers and stylists. So you put on a lot of hats, but it's all under the whole, fashion design for stage and music artists and entertainment, which is more our specialty coming into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, taking on that role, you didn't just start. You didn't just come right off the bench straight into being Prince's fashion designer. So where did it start for you? Where was the beginning? Was fashion always something that was a big part of your life?
Well, it kind of was. Coming from, and not to make it very historical, but it kind of is. So making my statement about now versus then.
Yeah.
Coming up in the 60s and 70s, young people were dressing more. More dashing, dapper. You were going to the tailor, you were wearing Italian knits, you were doing that. So just to interject, it came up for me was really just trying to dress unique and different and going to the tailor and creating things for yourself while you're really still being an adolescent and running around town and doing all the things that teenagers do.
So it started with you just kind of dressing yourself.
It was really dressing myself that got it really started. So it was very self-serving versus like, okay, let's pick a career. Although, however, I did go to school, out of high school, for electronics and work for an electronics company. But that was always in the back of my mind.
Was it Radio Shack?
No, actually, it was really Honeywell.
Oh, wow.
And it was Honeywell in Milwaukee.
That's another Minnesota tie, right? Isn't Honeywell based in Minnesota?
Actually, Honeywell is a Minnesota company.
Yeah.
Yes, origins. But I was in Milwaukee at the time, coming from Gary, Indiana, which is right outside of Chicago, where my family ended up in the migration, coming for the steel mill jobs. So at that point in time, again, that was the time of the Temptations and all the Motown groups, and everybody was dapper and you were wearing processed hair and, driving fancy cars. So it wasn't pretty much like you might see today. That's a little bit easier and casual. Everybody's and more casually dressed in jeans and sneakers. And So, I mean, everything is a little bit different comparatively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's fashion is one of the most interesting things in just human culture because you see, I've always been, I mean, I'm not looking crazy fashionable today. I got the nice shoes. I got the nice shoes on or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable. But fashion has always been a big part of my life. Like I've always, like in middle school, I probably got picked on a lot for what I wore because I've always had my own sense of style.
Right.
So fashion has always been something. It's not like at the forefront for me, but it matters to me. Like I like to look good. I like to wear things that I think look good, and I feel like I dress differently than most.
Yes.
So fashion is definitely something that's always been very interesting to me. So at what point did your career path switch from electronics to fashion? Because obviously, I'm guessing you were showing up to Honeywell looking fly too.
Actually, I was showing up to Honeywell a little bit too fly. I was still a little bit naive. I'm, wearing my nighttime clothes to a daytime job. So I'm thinking I'm correctly dressed in proper corporate attire with. Coming in there with a green suit and Stetson shoes and
looking better than the CEO.
You're looking better than the CEO, but you're looking like you
trying to show some people up.
Yeah, you're looking like you stepped out of a Superfly movie or something of that nature.
That's great, though.
So you're taking your neighborhood element into this corporate world, which really was a transition. And during that time, it was more affirmative action. So I was pretty good in electronics, but. They needed the whole diversity going on. So I didn't have really an opportunity to maybe come up through the ranks and begin to learn the corporate culture versus, the Chicago street culture, so to speak.
Yeah.
So one day my manager called, pulled me aside and said, he pitched it in some kind of way where, it's like you might want to, go to Target or something like that and get some clothes that are not as good. You don't want to mess up your good clothes, on the job. Because I was really calling on factories and doing repair, doing work in factories. So he kind of and I think at that moment it's like, oh man, I'm here dressing like Superfly and Shaft, and they finally, you got to tell him you can't come in here with this green suit and orange shoes on.
Did that bother you?
It didn't really bother me because I was kind of learning on the fly, coming from. The neighborhood into this corporate culture, so you're kind of like, okay, you kind of can get what's happening. Oh, that's right. I am looking a little bit out of sorts. So I had to, kind of start integrating, the more, conservative look with the pocket square and the, the basic colors and the clothing and tone it down so you can kind of blend in as much as you could.
Yeah. So then what was the moment where you transitioned?
Well,
you said you went to fashion school.
Well, I did go to fashion school, and that was really after I had put a few years into being effective and successful in that.
Yeah.
The fashion was really there. It wasn't like I had really left it. It was more like in those days, nobody's saying, "Well, yeah, go ahead and be a fashion designer." You were really like, you're in the 1970s, so get a job.
Not like today, where you can just
not like
make
today.
Up a T-shirt and the logo.
Yeah, you can. Say you want to do anything, you want to be a rapper, you want to be anything, because the examples of that, but that was just more, the bread and butter kind of a situation. You got to need something for your family. This is a hobby, so the fashion and the art was looked at as more hobby things to do, not real careers that you're going to actually be great. And even if you have a representative of that, it's like, well, it can't be you. It was always somebody else that was going to be like James Brown or a Prince or something of that nature. So you should go and do this blue collar thing. So it's like, well, that makes sense. Your counselors are telling you that, your family, they can't fathom, fortune and fame. And but that was always there. So
they want you to be realistic.
You don't want you to be realistic. So my life was, certainly a dichotomy going on, because during the day I'm doing the pocket square Honeywell company car, driving up to the factories. I'm coming to fix your temperature control widget gadgets, so you can continue to make ocean spray, and this guy can do that. And I learned a lot of stuff about nutrition during that time, which has kind of helped me. But then at night you put on another suit, so now you're hanging out with musicians and slicksters. And
I wonder how, because I'm a big believer in energy, and I wonder how much that you dressing that way at a quote unquote blue collar job kind of fueled this dream of yours because you know what they say, fake it till you make it, right?
Yes.
I don't necessarily think you were faking it until you make it. You were just being you.
Yes.
But I wonder how much that played a role in you getting to where you really did end up getting. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
I have to feel like the energy of you
yes.
with the pocket square at the place where it wasn't really appropriate.
Yes.
It had to make it.
I'm
had to do something.
definitely. I mean, as you look back at it, I can certainly see where one stage in the transition. I can definitely see where had I, stayed with another particular lane, that might have been a little bit more conservative, or had I had a personality. I think for me, my personality, which was always outside of the lines, but I was intelligent enough to understand how to fit this, street game, juvenile delinquency kind of, outside of Chicago thing into this little box of appropriateness. So even though growing up I might have had some misbehaviors and misdeeds, it was always intellectual. I was always thinking, it's like, you know what, I'm going to go to school for real this year and get on honor roll. And then, okay, I did that. So next year I'm going to take off. And, so it's like you already know that you understand it. It's not like you're that clueless, like, duh, what's that about? No, I'm reading this.
Yeah.
So I can really do this, but I'm still more.
I can relate to what you're saying. I fully grasp exactly what you're saying.
I'm grasping this. I'm walking into the room. I mean, it's like many things for the first time you're doing it. I'm like, it's like I'm doing this. You know how to just flow and blend in and learn on the fly without, having to have so much preparation. Yeah. So I think that I never gave up on anything, but as I grew and matured, I realized how to incorporate all of it. And then you start segmenting. Okay, let me go give them this daytime job, and I got this company car, and I'm making, a nice, healthy salary of like $150 a week and that kind of a thing. Yeah. So you rolling,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, my goodness.
So you eventually transitioned into fashion school.
I did transition to fashion school, but that came by way of, sometime mid-'70s. I got a job. I knew I wanted to go to fashion school. I didn't mind quitting what I was really doing, and moved to New York to go to fashion school. But that was about timing as well. It was hey, mid-'70s. You got Studio 54. You got New York. I was living with 3 stewardesses as roommates. Not many,
Okay.
No one's really.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another conversation.
Hey, that might be a different podcast.
That's
right
another podcast altogether, for sure.
You were living it up.
Well, yeah, and again, and I'm living like directly across from Madison Square Garden on 7th Avenue, which is a whole new thing. So I'm coming from the Midwest, and I'm coming up in New York, and it's like, wow, you're right in the middle of it on Fashion Avenue. And I didn't have the real understanding of all the logistics of the fashion schools there, because I'm down the street from FIT, didn't know it. I was attempting to go to a school in Brooklyn, the best school that I ultimately went to years later over time was right down the street, but you were so busy, caught up in the New York life. I mean, you walk up, a few streets up, and you're in Times Square, and I'm flying here and there, and you get down and you go out, to the club, and it was that whole 70s revival. So we never kind of made it to fashion school at that time.
Okay, so at what point? Let's get to the meat and potatoes. At what point how does your path lead to Prince?
Well, the path leads to Prince because just to fast forward, I did ultimately end up moving to Los Angeles, and I went to fashion school there.
Okay.
Which was great again. Had I went to fashion school in New York, then I wouldn't have gotten into entertainment. I would have done something else, maybe as equally as profound, but this was a better path. Going to school there and then began working for a costume designer. Bill Whitten was his name. He's no longer with us, but he was more referred to as the Black Bob Mackie because he had all the big, acts, Motown, Lionel Richie, Earth, Wind & Fire, and the Jacksons, who I grew up with actually in Gary, Indiana. They stayed on the next street, and you come up through school with them. So the older Jacksons, certainly knew me. I knew them. It was nice reconnecting. And then from there, began working with Earth, Wind & Fire directly. Okay. That's where my partner and I got together. So now we're like, 1980s, and we're touring around the world, working with that particular group. So that goes on for a couple of years. and they had a break, kind of like a breach in their relationship, and they were not going to go on tour. At that point, we're connected with the group. We're on staff. We're on retainer, and their management company, which manages a number of acts. And then they had this new guy called Prince, who wasn't Prince then as Prince is now.
Yeah.
So we were like on loan, a loan out. He was on the 1999, it was the 1999 tour, whatever the tour it was at the time, and we were on loan to, we got this new kid. Why don't you see if you can go help him out and spruce up his wardrobe while they're on tour? Well, you guys are my employers, and we'll go and do that. But we really thought it was going to be just a brief experience, and we get back to Earth, Wind, and Fire and the 5-star hotels and the private jets and around the world, kind of a tour, versus this new kid coming up that's interesting that I, didn't know much about. The research on him was certain was that, he was going to be somebody in the future, but right then. So we became involved with him during that particular tour, which we thought was really going to be temporary, and then just merged into something more.
So how instrumental, actually, let me rephrase that. Of all of the outfits / costumes that Prince, Prince was pretty iconic for his fashion.
That's true.
What percentage would you say you're responsible for? Like, were you, how involved was he, or were you like, hey, put that on, and he was like, all right, I got you?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't really that. And certainly everybody had a time and a segment of working with him. We were the principal designers, the first designers that were professional from the world of entertainment, from Los Angeles, that he was able to work with. He had worked with local individuals. He did have some interesting ideas and concepts in place. Certainly you weren't able to just put things on him, so he had to be involved himself.
I assumed that, but I did, yeah.
Yeah, you don't put things on him. So he had some things in place, as I like to say to people. It's like, no one says, okay, I created all of this. You kind of pick up where someone else left off. In that particular case, working with the local designer, Andre Simone's sister, Sylvia Anderson had been doing some work for him, styling and making things magical at that level. That made him kind of interesting. It was not like he just came, okay, we have nothing. There was something, there was a platform, and there was some framework, so I always like to shout her out for thanks for handing something off that we could actually.
You kind of took the baton.
Yeah, we took the baton.
Yeah.
We didn't come and make it happen, we took the baton.
Yeah.
But certainly he was, there were some techniques that we had already developed and evolved in a style that we had from certainly working with acts as big as Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is a big costume show.
Big, yeah.
So now the logistics
also
of it
very,
become bigger.
very iconic.
Very iconic, and so you're bringing that experience and expertise to it, and he's learning. But the backstory to that is he's already understood what they're doing, because now he's under their management. So of course, in maybe selling them like we're the way to go versus some other management company, you're showing him you're showing him Earth, Wind and Fire's complex. You're showing him how they function in the studio. You're showing him everything that he would replicate, and he's seeing all these wardrobes, because we had a studio within Earth, Wind and Fire's complex in West LA, and he saw, okay, they got a design studio right here. We got our own manufacturing. We took a studio on the road. So at that particular standpoint, he's beginning to make mental notes. I want this. And, ultimately we come up with the Paisley Park situation. That really is a much more replication of what you got through that whole management. We're going to give you something different because we're operating differently. Coming in, we certainly had to study him. You can't really just come in and, okay, I'm doing Lionel Richie, I'm going to put Lionel Richie's outfit on you. No, that only worked for the Commodores, you see. I can't give you what, So I have to figure out who you are as a designer. I'm reflecting, even as a songwriter. I can't, give you, Frank Sinatra songs. I have to hear what you're talking about. So we started in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. This is amazing, to be honest with you, because everybody knows there's there's a good handful, if not two handfuls, of like iconic Prince wardrobe moments
Yes.
that people know of.
Yes.
What were some of the ones that you were involved with?
Well, our era, which is defined, and it was in segments, as a lot of the designers that came after Mike Lewis and myself.
Did you put the assless chaps on Prince?
Well, that's always a very good question. And my question to that is yes.
Okay.
We did.
That was all right.
Yes, we did. But I'll preface that by saying we experimented with that, as we, of course, tried a lot of experimental things. I don't think we did it. We did it, but I don't think we did it as well as the outfit that people have saw more that came when the subsequent designer, I think it was Debbie Gowan or somebody, that came and really kind of like, okay, we're going to take this and then we're going to do it bigger, and it's going to get a bigger platform, because he had a bigger platform, which I like. I mean, a lot of designers that followed me, I like a lot of their stuff. I mean, we could get in a room and probably take over the world. I'm bringing my talent, you're bringing your talent. It's no problem. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. He kind of toyed with that, and we, you kind of pull that out and let's perfect it later at another time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the one that everybody talks about.
That's kind of the one. I mean, fortunately for me, which kind of keeps me, at the forefront of the game, is that all of the clothing for the Purple Rain movie and the trench coat, the ruffle shirt, that we expanded into something more than what it had been, and everything that's more iconic with that movie, that we were actually had a clothing line out with. You pretty much flash to that. Subsequent, now that you become Prince, and you're working with other designers and other people after our term had ended, it just took a different direction. It grew, but there were some things that we certainly put in place that we can say decidingly, was it not us, then it would not have happened. One of them being like the boots and the shoes.
Yeah.
There's a great collection out there at Paisley Park now, where you put in, everything you're doing in a costume, you're doing a shoe that matches in that fabric, which was strategic as well as artistic, because we had to elevate him with his height, and you're going to look taller if you're looking at one thread of color versus getting down, and now you got 4 or 5 inches of another color. It shortens you, so that lengthened him, and that's something you learn in Hollywood, working with entertainers, and we had picked that up from doing Earth, Wind, and Fire that way. We'll do the color. What did we do the shoes? We're going to put fabric on it. So we brought that, and all these and innovations like that. So when you begin to talk about what introduced him to the world, you're saying Purple Rain as this very big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So who did the clothes at that time? Which we were there at right place, right time.
Yeah.
And so it comes back to us, but without taking full credit for anything, but saying we're able to be the maestros at that moment over that whole visual orchestration.
Yeah.
And helping build studios and helping, show him how to, run that, because, we had 3 studios before we got to the Paisley Park one.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to be able to stake your claim on. I
Yes.
mean, that's obviously Purple Rain is.
Yeah, that was a pretty big platform. So, you can't, and even at that point, you're incorporating other people. I mean, that's a very big, certainly a very big show by this time.
Yeah.
So it's like running the corporation. So whether you're the CEO or not, you need all kind of middle management and levels and layers of individuals. We were running a big shop here. We had our primary shop in L.A. where a lot of the tailoring was done. Warner Brothers brought some people in for the movie that were great costumers. I mean, we hadn't done movies to that degree, so if you didn't bring someone in like Marie France, then the whole thing would have been botched. She has that experience, and she's a frontline person with ideas.
Yeah.
So that first meeting, by the time that we had the first meeting about the Purple Rain movie, we had really designed everything that Prince had in his mind that he wanted to see, versus Warner Brothers coming in, well, we're going to send our costumer with ideas. And she had ideas, and we saw her set in the meeting, but we had books of sketches already prepared, and we went through ideas, and they were really fine. I mean, at some point over time, she incorporated her influence, but then we pulled out our books that we had already designed this thing with Prince. He already had some idea. We already had, staff artists that we sit with and designs that we would do. So we pulled out everything that was principal in the Purple Rain movie. We had designed before the movie that even started.
Wow. So then is that frustrating then when it's kind of like you bring your baby into this thing? And
it kind of is because I think you're still at that point where everybody is working in a certain way, and their ideal is we're going to make this artist into who we want him to be. Mm-hmm. We do understand over the years the fight that Prince did have with his record company and being bossed and ordered and dictated around.
Really,
so
the whole record industry, really
the whole industry. So the whole industry is dictating. So they're not used to an innovator.
Yeah.
I mean, once we really got comfortable and settled in with the fact that this is going to be our life and this is not a temporary situation, then we kind of found a little bit more synergy. Whereas maybe coming in, it's like, well, we're gonna, do some buttons and bows and, tack some glitter on to something, and we're back to our international life. But now we're stuck with this thing that we really have to grow. Earth, Wind & Fire did not go back on tour at that time.
Yeah.
So we were really there. And we began to see that, maybe this guy that had leg warmers and thongs on, maybe he's really got something,
Yeah.
Versus discounting. It's like, man, we're going to have to get out of here. I mean, I got a room at the Intercontinental in Paris to get to. I mean, so, but then you begin to appreciate and say, maybe he has something. He's going to buck the system. So, yes, they kind of had a vision and an image coming in, and that's not me. We're just sitting there working, like he's working with songs with someone. We're working with designs, 1,000 ideas to come up with 5 hits. Well, we already got the 5 hits for you. So what you brought your girl in here to do, we don't, we'll use that somewhere. We got other people in here, but the principal himself is saying, no, I already got this with my guys right here. And here are the sketches, and this is what we're going to do. So we led with that. So, whatever fighting friction he had on that was on his end. I had enough friction on my end, so.
Yeah, but you're giving right now, you're giving the viewers and myself true insight to why he was in that seemingly career-long battle against the industry.
Yes.
Like there's people really trying to mold him into what they wanted him to be, and
yes,
Prince wasn't that. Like,
yes, he was never that.
You're not going to mold me.
Yes.
Even you were saying, like, you can't just put clothes on Prince.
No.
So this is true insight into who he really was and the things that we heard him say many times on many public platforms about the industry.
Yeah, and you learn that in your own interaction. I mean, it's like, again, I'm thinking this is temporary, so it's like, let's just put this on him here and let's get up out of here. So it's like, whoa, so you got to go through your bond and like, yo, hold up, this is not what we're doing. So you begin to like, let me pay attention to this guy. He's a little bit intelligent here. Actually, he's more intelligent than I thought. We can't just blow him off. So he certainly, it wasn't a fight between us, but I can really understand that. I mean, the creative part for me is understanding that you don't just come and just put your suit on this guy. You have to sit down and figure out who he is and what he is. So if that was not my design philosophy, then I would probably have created more friction by saying, no, you have to wear this blue suede shoes. Right. And the blue suede shoes.
I'm the fashion guy. You're the music guy. You will do what I say.
I was not asserting that.
Yeah.
Because I'm good in a room with other designers, and really we can sit down and collaborate. If he's a client and we're the designer, we're not going to fight about it. I'm going to say, yo, man, I like this thing. I got this thing you got on. I'm always complimentary because my talent is good. I mean, if we're going to have a duel, you understand, you're going to have to bring your A game. So I don't have to defend that, so I can compliment and pull more from you.
For sure.
So I was able to like, okay, cool. You don't like what I'm – but see, we came in already with visual an established personal visual identity that he really admired, you see. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like we're like, you're going to – some generic guy that's making somebody great. When you look at him, it's like, wow, that guy. No, when we walked into the room,
came with greatness.
Yeah. When you walked into the room, you knew we were the designers. You understand? We dressed it, we lived it. It's like you just came out of the club on Sunset Boulevard. Actually, there were times when we were on the road with Earth, Wind & Fire. So you get out of the country and people don't really identify you by visual, they just identify you by your stature and projection. I mean, we have been at after parties dressed as the designers we are, and the reporters are over there trying to interview us, and the guys are over there looking a little bit too casual, player. I told you, player, don't come down here looking casual, because they're just looking for a star. And the star, they want a star that looks like a star.
The exact opposite of your experience at Honeywell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the exact opposite. So now I could bring that Kelly green suit and those, orange Stetson shoes.
And steal the interview from the stars.
Yes, and they come, and jokingly, but I'm saying they come running over there. It's like, bro, hey, we just trying to, walk down the corridor here. They jumped us because we look like the star. You over there like people really know who you are up close. You better put something on that looks like a star. So we brought that into the situation that helped establish that maybe these cats know what they're talking about. They're already coming through here walking, looking like Marvin Gaye and James Brown and, stuff that I hadn't seen, and short jackets that we were able to put on to him. Because he saw us wearing this kind of stuff. So it was kind of that mutual admiration. And, of course, him and I being Gemini, so we had that little commonality of, like, being 19 different people.
It's got to create trust. It's like, okay. Well,
it is a create trust.
Yeah.
It is a create trust, but then again, you need that, competitive friction here, you see.
For sure.
I think that drives it as well. It's like, let me show you who I am, kind of a thing. You see,
so every year during the Super Bowl, obviously the big part of the Super Bowl is the halftime show, right? Mm-hmm. And every year I feel like it gets compared. Whoever it is, it gets compared to Prince's Super Bowl halftime performance. He did twice. I think it was the second one I'm referring to, where he did Purple Rain and the skies opened and it started to rain. Were you involved in his fashion for that?
Well, yes. everything that was happening into that era as it start going into the next segments that we were involved in.
Okay, so did you get to experience the Super Bowl festivities with him, like while this was all happening? Were you there?
No, because what you see now that's happening out there at Paisley Park, started on a much smaller scale. Mm-hmm. So while you're churning out what's being needed, someone is over here doing that particular performance. So it wasn't like, okay, we did the job, now let's go play. There was always something else we were working on.
Okay.
So you
got it.
Yeah. So at that point, you got frontline people and dressers, and you come and go, but you're really on to something else, because while you're looking at the Super Bowl, there's something else coming down the pipe.
For sure. So you're not sitting there watching your work on stage. You're over here doing something else.
You don't have that liberty to let's go party. It's just like, no, you're working on another deal. The movie, another movie has to come out. There's something else going on. So you're employed. We're running a shop. You got people. I mean, you're gonna just, you got people to show up for work every day. So we had a shop in Los Angeles. That was our primary shop. So you're running back and forth. And out of that, you do so much of that you're not like, you don't see it as this. It is a magnificent event, but your whole life is one event after
you
another.
Got work, and you got work to do.
Yeah, you got work.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I would have thought, hey, that's my design. I should be there at the Super Bowl looking at this, but you got work to do.
No, you got, because we've already done this show thing. We understand. I mean, if it was brand new, then I would have been slighted. At that particular standpoint, you're electing like, no, man, I don't have the time to do this. We got some people doing this because we're working on this next thing.
Yeah.
And definitely doing shows around the world internationally with Earth, Wind, and Fire. We had a shop that we took on the road. So sometimes while they're over there at the venue doing sound check, I'm still trying to put some outfits together at the hotel, trying to tell some guy in Brazilian, in Portuguese, how to get me where I need to get. And if I don't show up with the clothes, they don't have a show. So you're used to, your part in all this thing is very defined, and it's not by being sitting in the audience like gawking, because you're somewhere working on the next thing.
Got it.
That still has to happen in all these moving parts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we got to wrap. Our time is running out, but before we go, I got just a few quick hitters, a couple things. So one, you mentioned earlier that you grew up around the Jacksons.
Yes.
And you worked with Prince.
Yes.
There's always been this talk about the Prince-Michael Jackson, kind of rivalry.
Yes.
Did you ever see it firsthand? Was it real?
No.
It was not?
No.
Okay.
No. Actually, truth be told, they were more friendly than that. I mean, you have to create some rivalry because he's Michael and he's this. I think they both admired each other, and they both influenced each other in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a rivalry, then what's Michael Jackson doing hanging out at Paisley Park with Prince himself. And if there's really a rivalry, I think a lot of those incidents that were, some of it might have been intentionally crafted. So if Prince is over here playing and he's over here, now he's going to walk over here and, you know, taunt Michael with some riffs and all that. It's like, they in the rivalry. But then you don't understand later it's kind of like, you know, Michael's saying, you know, man, Prince is just mischievous, man. He just do all that kind of stuff while they're kicking.
So maybe a friendly rivalry.
It's a friendly rivalry.
Yeah,
there we go. That's what it is.
That
but it
sense.
Definitely was not. It's a friendly rivalry because we wouldn't be sitting here breaking bread together and you in my crib and we just talking, tossing things back and forth.
For sure. Okay, so of all of the clients that you've had over the years, who was your personal favorite to design for?
Well, you know, I don't want to say Prince because it's the expected thing to say.
The obvious answer,
yeah.
That's why I asked.
But yeah, having done a lot of range of clients, I just recently did the Temptations again after a number of years that I hadn't done them. I've done, another guy I like is Mickey Free from Shalimar. We did most of the people on Solar Records.
Okay.
We've done Quincy Jones, where he's, running through his house, in Bel Air with a white suit on. He never, wow, man, I know I'm this good. He running up and down the hallways, during the period where he had the dude symbol. So we did all of that. So we've done a lot of people. I think Prince is the most interesting because that was probably the most complex back and forth relationship. Again.
So what you're saying is you can't pick a favorite.
You can't pick a favorite. Everybody has their own particular influence on your life and their own particular relationship.
Yeah.
That you're working with,
Yep.
and on, different design objectives. Because when you're designing, it's not necessarily about the clothing. It's what you can put into the clothing that they need. You see, so you got to put courage into this thing. You got to put mischief into this thing. So there's a lot of nouns that go into there that have nothing to do with the fabric. How is he going to feel when he's looking at himself in the mirror? So how do you put that in there? How do you put the mystique of the show, because it's still like a movie?
Yeah.
So it's a pink shirt, but it's really not a pink shirt. I need him to be romantic. So how do we make him feel romantic? Everybody's not going to be Prince coming up on the stage rider, with a mattress and a this and a that. He needs stuff that relative to him, and someone else, maybe not need as much. So he was more interested in that regard.
Okay. My final thought, and then I want you to get an opportunity to tell everybody what you have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye West as a fashion designer.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Kanye West is very correct for what's happening in fashion now. That is not necessarily reflective in my style.
Got it.
My style is what you really see. I'm still sartorial. I'm still doing this and that.
So you have appreciation for the modern.
I have
the modern
appreciation
style.
for the modern style that I'm glad that I don't have to do in that regard.
Yeah.
I certainly pull from it.
Yep.
And I think he's a genius in that respect of being able to take a much more of an art director's approach to design on what the pulse of what young people want today.
Yeah.
On things that I'm still like, well, I'm going to understand it, but really, can you do that? No, I could possibly do it technically because I'm trained. Do I want to do it is really the question, and the answer is no.
Makes sense. Okay. Give people tell people what you're doing now. What are you doing in Minneapolis? What are we promoting now? What are you working on currently?
Well, what am I doing now? I live in New York. I certainly work in fashion. I work in fashion and from the, not always just costume, but certainly in the fashion industry. I've worked with, a lot of major designers in New York on the Oscar de la Renta level, and Norma Kamali and Gilles Mendel, a lot of couture. I think what I'm always growing into the next segment. And living in New York, you grow into another segment that's not all about just one guy on the stage, but it is about how do you work within this industry. So certainly I have a freelance business that I still do this entertainment design. I do collections. I'm looking forward to, hopefully we can begin to put together another line that we can put out under the new management at Paisley Park. We
Yeah.
did have a line out that was purple wear years ago. I think that's a collection that I'm really working on.
Okay.
But then there's my own private collection. I did move to London a few years ago to get more involved in bespoke tailoring, and worked on Savile Row, created some relationships. That's another lane. So there's like several. I'm experimenting with things that I really enjoy that I can continue to expand and grow.
Okay, makes sense. And if people want to find you, reach out to you, work with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you can go to my site, vaughnterry.com, which would be the most easiest to really find out what's happening with me and what products are available and what's the next big thing coming down the pike.
Okay, and social media?
Social media as
they could probably
well.
find it all there.
Yeah, the social media, the Vaughn Terry, and there's so much social media. I have to leave that to some of my.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. We'll have it posted in the interview
absolutely.
as well, so
Yeah.
they'll be able to see. Man, this is a really fun conversation. Honestly, we could probably talk for another 3 hours.
Well, I was going to say, maybe I should negotiate for 15 more minutes and we can, be a little bit more salacious. But no, this has been fun, and it's always nice to just.
Well, you just let us know. You can come back whenever you want to.
Well,
anytime you want to, you come back. We'll have more conversation.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll definitely take you up on that.
Okay, yeah, please do. Man, I appreciate your time.
Well,
this was fun.
It
has been fun. I learned a lot today. Like I said, we could do a lot more. There's a lot more. If we weren't under time constraints, I would definitely sit here and talk to you for much longer.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, got people coming in the door.
Yeah, it gets crazy over here some days.
I know.
Okay, well, again, I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck. Keep going. And
let me smile. Your people in the door are my people. These are people we came up, raised up, grew up together.
That's right.
Look at this wonderful smile on her.
That's right. She's next. She's next.
Okay.
Vaughn, I really appreciate your time again. Okay. And yeah, well, I'll be watching. And let us know if you need anything from us.
I certainly will.
Okay, that's it. Another episode of Minnesota's #1 daily show live on Lake Street. I'm Jake Faircloth, a.k.a. Podcast Poppy. Follow me everywhere at Jake Faircloth1. Follow us everywhere at Live on Lake Street. And that's a wrap. We out.
It ain't that I can't stop, it's that I won't stop. I made a few plays off a flip, now I'm on top. I'm Southside Chief, homie, yeah. What you know about it? Lake Street legend CEO, not the co-founder. What you wanna know about me? I'm so cursed up, I'm the last man standing, but I went first up. Most hated, they don't say it when I roll up. The things that people say about me, they don't say close up. Check it, I ain't been to the booth in a minute. Niggas hate the fact that I'm winning. Who makes him the chief of the South Side? Oh my nigga, I'm not the lieutenant. When I was in the gym, you wasn't in it. FaceTime, so my windows is tinted. If I said that shit, then I meant it. Niggas gave me the rules and I bent it. Same nigga that was trapping while I was suspended. You wasn't in them hallways banging, boy, you wasn't in it. Really a genuine nigga, homie, don't get offended. From East Lake, South Murder, I'm just it ain't that I can't stop, it's that I won't stop. It ain't that I can't stop, it's that I won't. Say, it ain't that I can't stop, it's that I won't stop. I made a few plays off a flip, now I'm on top. I'm Southside Chief, homie. What you know about it? Southside Chief, homie. Now what you know, look, I'm Southside Chief, homie. What you know about it? Lake Street legend CEO, not the co-founder. What you wanna know about me?